Hello, and welcome to Digital Painting Fundamentals. I'm John Nymeister, and I'll be your instructor throughout this course. I've been working as an illustrator and concept artist in the games industry for over a decade, working on IPs like Smite, League of Legends, Hearthstone, and plenty of others. My specialty is in creating high-level marketing and splash-style illustrations. And in this course, I'll be teaching you fundamental skills, digital techniques, and a concrete process for creating compelling illustrations from initial concept to final execution. By the end of this course, you should have a solid grasp of all the tools and fundamentals required for digital painting, which you can practice and improve on throughout your entire artistic journey. While we will discuss some drawing fundamentals as they're relevant to our process, it's important to note that most of this course will be focused specifically on painting theories. I recommend having a solid grasp on basic drawing fundamentals before beginning this course. You can check out Figure Drawing Fundamentals on Proko for a great overview of all the skills you'll need here. The most important skill for painting is the ability to break down complex forms into simpler ones, and draw them in perspective from both observation and imagination. While going through this course, I'd like to offer you a challenge. Maintain a daily sketchbook routine where you draw objects from reference and imagination, simplify them down to basic forms in perspective, and redraw them at different angles from imagination. This kind of exercise will dramatically improve the quality of your paintings. It's also worth noting that in this course, we're going to be covering a lot of general painting theory, so even though this is a digital painting course, a lot of the concepts we go over can be translated to traditional media as well. All of the lessons in this course will be demonstrated in Photoshop, as it is the industry standard for entertainment art. But nearly all of the tools and techniques will translate perfectly well to programs like Clip Studio Paint and Procreate. I'd like to begin with a general commentary on digital painting as a medium, whether you're new to painting in general, or you're a traditional artist thinking of branching out into digital painting. The first thing to know is that digital painting is not a shortcut, and requires just as much skill as traditional painting. Some things are easier in digital painting, like making big changes to a piece halfway through the process, but some things can be harder, like creating organic textures and interesting brushwork. At the end of the day, the quality of your paintings depends entirely on your creativity and fundamental skills, not what medium you choose to work with. You should think about your career goals when you're deciding whether you should focus more on traditional painting or digital painting. For entertainment art like film and video games, digital painting is the standard, and most clients will require you to work digitally. Entertainment pipelines require lots of flexibility, and most assets are repurposed in lots of different ways, like taking the character, separating it from the background, and using it somewhere else. And even if you're primarily a traditional artist, it can be immensely helpful to have a digital workflow to put finishing touches on a piece and also to apply challenging feedback in a timely manner. The great thing about digital art is that it has a very low barrier to entry. You don't need a top-of-the-line computer or a huge studio, and you don't need to repurchase materials when you run out. Oil paints can be expensive. All you need to get started is a decent computer, some digital painting software like Photoshop or Clip Studio Paint, and a pressure-sensitive drawing tablet. This video has been sponsored by Wacom, and I personally recommend their tablets myself, as I've been using them since I started digital painting back in 2004. They're also the industry standard in practically all studios and workplaces. In this course, I'll be using the Cintiq Pro 32-inch, but there's a whole variety of Cintiq sizes, including the Wacom One, which is more affordable if you're just starting out with digital painting. Some artists prefer screenless tablets like the Wacom Intuos line, and they work just as well. It all comes down to your personal preference and your budget. Bear in mind that this is a tool you'll use for many years, so it's worth investing in a long-term solution. My personal favorite is the Wacom Cintiq, as it allows you to draw directly on the screen, which I find much more natural and intuitive, especially if you're more used to drawing traditionally. One final note about digital painting is that it's very important to have an ergonomic workspace, especially if you're working on a Cintiq. Be sure to have your chair and desk set up in such a way that you can sit comfortably upright with your feet on the floor or a footrest. And be sure you can draw on your tablet with your arms at a comfortable 90-degree angle without hunching forwards. It's super important to not sit at your desk for too long. Every hour or so, try to stand up and stretch. Give yourself a good overhead stretch to flex your back, and you can also stretch out your hands with this super easy exercise. Start by extending one of your arms, then grab your fingertips with your opposite hand and pull your fingers back towards you, just until you feel a nice stretch. Hold this for about 10 or 15 seconds, and then flip your hand the other direction, grab the back of your hand, and again pull towards you, just enough to feel a stretch. Repeat this on your other hand, hold for about 10 or 15 seconds, then flip and pull towards you. Keeping your muscles relaxed and your joints in motion is immensely important to your health and well-being as an artist. Many artists have had their careers interrupted or significantly hindered due to wrist and back pain, so for a long and healthy career, it's just as important to take care of your body as it is to develop your painting skills. Also, try to keep your painting workday to an 8-hour maximum. Working for 10 or 12 hours a day can cause some serious strain on your body and result in repetitive stress injuries. Now that we've discussed digital painting as a medium, it's time to dive in and get a feel for the tools that we'll be using throughout the course. I'll be using Photoshop, but virtually all digital painting software has these tools, though some are named slightly differently. First off is the brush tool. This is our primary workhorse, and it'll constitute about 90% of our digital painting workflow. While there are other techniques that can be used to create digital art, this course will be approaching digital painting from a very traditional hand-painted perspective, so the brush tool is our best friend. The eraser tool, as you might guess, allows you to erase anything on your current layer. You can use any of your brush tool brushes with the eraser tool, allowing you to erase out a variety of textures and edges. Next up is the eyedropper tool. This allows us to select colors directly from our canvas and references, which can then be painted with the brush tool. This is a great time saver and is really useful for blending. You can also toggle the eyedropper by pressing Alt or Option while using the brush tool, which allows you to switch seamlessly between the two while painting. I recommend binding this shortcut to your tablet pen. The smudge tool allows you to smear the pixels on your canvas as though they were soft charcoal or oil paint, which is really useful for blending and edge control. You can also use any of your brush tool brushes with the smudge tool, but I prefer to have a set of brushes specifically designed to work with the smudge tool to get the results I want. Working digitally generally requires high-resolution images, so you'll often find yourself zooming in to work on certain parts of your painting. For this, you can use the Zoom tool to zoom, the Hand tool to pan, and the Rotate tool to rotate your canvas. You can also hold spacebar at any time to pan around your canvas, and you can use Ctrl or Command plus to zoom in, and Ctrl or Command minus to zoom out. I recommend binding all of these shortcuts to your tablet buttons. In addition to moving your view of the canvas, you'll also often want to move and adjust the contents of your painting. For this, we have the Move tool, which moves the contents of a layer, and the Free Transform tool, which allows you to scale, distort, and warp your layer. You can hold Shift to switch between Free Transform and Locked Ratio Transform, and hold Ctrl or Command to skew any point freely. You can also right-click the transform box for a variety of other options, including perspective and warp transform. Digital painting also offers us a variety of selection tools, which are useful for masking out certain areas of the painting. The Marquee tool allows us to create square and circular selections. You can hold Shift to create a perfect circle or square, and you can hold Alt to have the selection expand outwards from your cursor. You can also set a specific aspect ratio for your selection in the options bar. The Lasso tool allows us to create organic shaped selections, either freehand using the Lasso tool, point by point using the Polygonal Lasso tool, or intelligently using the Magnetic Lasso tool. To switch between the different modes of a tool, click and hold on its icon in the toolbar until other options appear. You can also hold Shift while pressing the tool's hotkey repeatedly. You can also use the Move tool and Free Transform tool on your selections to only affect that specific part of the layer. There's a lot more tools available to us for digital painting, and we'll get into those in future lessons. But for now, these tools are more than enough to get us started and create some fantastic digital artwork. An important part of being a professional artist is the ability to work quickly and efficiently. One of the advantages that digital painting offers us is keyboard shortcuts. These allow you to switch between different tools and perform various functions without having to dig through application menus. Familiarizing yourself with your software's hotkeys and assigning the ones you use the most to convenient places like your tablet buttons can save you a ton of time throughout the course of a painting. Most shortcuts in Photoshop are listed next to their relevant tool or function, and you can set up your own shortcuts by going to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts. If you ever find yourself performing a function frequently and it takes you more than a second to do it, consider making it a shortcut. You can also assign any of your Wacom tablet buttons to perform a keyboard shortcut in your tablet settings. Wacom tablets have a fantastic feature called radial menus. In your Wacom tablet properties, you can create a radial menu with shortcuts assigned to your most frequently used functions, and even nest multiple radial menus within each other. You can see here, I use radial menus to switch between the tools and functions I use the most with just a single button on my tablet. Some artists prefer using their keyboard to using tablet buttons, so try both and do whatever feels natural to you. Learning all of your keyboard shortcuts and creating a custom setup that works for you can take a while, but it's well worth it for the increase in speed and efficiency that it provides. I've fine-tuned my shortcuts to the point that I can paint completely without a keyboard, which speeds up my workflow significantly. Another feature of Wacom tablets is that you can set a custom pressure curve. That is, how hard you have to press your pen onto the tablet to reach a full opacity brushstroke. I highly recommend using a softer pressure curve, as it's more like the pressure you use when painting traditionally. It'll also put less strain on your wrist and prevent your tablet surface from getting scratched. Now that we've familiarized ourselves with our tools, we have to create a canvas to actually paint on. It's important to understand the basics of digital images, as many clients will have specific requirements and restrictions in regards to canvas size. Press Ctrl-N to create a new image document. In here, you will see a few parameters, with the most important being width, height, and resolution. Using the drop-down boxes to the right, you can change the measurement type Photoshop uses to create your canvas. It's wise to use the type that best fits the final application of the painting. Most clients will give you pixel dimension requirements for your canvas, so using pixels makes sense. But for print, some clients may ask you for inches or centimeters instead, in which case switching to one of those is more appropriate. When making a new image, changing the resolution doesn't change the actual dimensions of your canvas. It only affects how those dimensions are translated. When changing the resolution of an existing image, the pixel data will scale with the resolution change. As far as the resolution setting of the canvas, it's not super important. Most clients will want you to work at 300 dpi, but what really matters is the pixel dimensions. So just be sure you create a canvas large enough that you can paint your details comfortably without overly taxing your computer. I personally recommend doing final paintings no smaller than 4,000 pixels on the longest side, and my preferred resolution for a 16:9 image is 8,000 by 4,500 pixels. To improve your computer's performance with high-resolution images, Photoshop allows you to use your video card in addition to your CPU. Go to Edit, Preferences, Performance to enable this feature. It also comes with some nice side benefits, such as a smoother display at uneven zoom levels. Lastly, your color space should be RGB 8-bit. You can go higher than 8-bit, but currently there's no practical reason to do so. It is worth noting that if you're working for print, your final image will probably have to be CMYK, but I recommend doing the painting itself in RGB and then converting your final image to CMYK when you're finished. That completes the overview of all the basics we need to begin painting. Although these technical details aren't the most exciting part, becoming comfortable and familiar with your tools is essential to creating an efficient workflow. The more mental energy you spend struggling to use your software, the less mental energy you have available to make good creative decisions. I know it probably seemed a little overwhelming at first, but with time and practice, everything we talked about here will become second nature. In the next lesson, we'll be diving deeper into brushes, learning about Photoshop's brush engine, and creating our own custom brush for painting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.